Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Depth webinar for today. We are very excited to have everyone join us today. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Before we start, please feel free to put any questions in the Q&A or chat as you go along. And if it's something that we can answer as we go along, we'll be happy to. If not, we'll save it at the end. And we will allow the expert, Sue, to provide insight, or any one of us will be able to provide insight. Now, thank you. With that said, I would like to introduce to you this evening's speaker, our expert, our in-house expert, Sue Ruiz. She's a VP of Risk Management, uh, is a risk and compliance professional with more than 17 years of diversified experience in the banking and secondary market industry. Sue graduated from University of Phoenix with a bachelor's in business administration and from Metropolitan University with a master's in business administration. Sue is certified risk management professional, certified compliance officer, and certified anti money laundering specialist. We are very fortunate and excited to have Sue and to introduce you this evening so she can give you all the information you need. Sue, take it away.
Thank you, Rahel, for your introduction, and I'm pleased and delighted to be here with you today to speak about a very important topic that is indeed in my heart. Is the financial fraud and common scam and warning sign. And when we talk about financial fraud, there is no shortage tricks that scammer will use to gain access to your personal and account information, right? It's everywhere. It's never will continue, never finish, right? And seems to be that fraudsters right now are getting evolved like the technology as well. So today we will navigate into go over that on the agenda. If I can get to the second slide, we will talk about signs of scam, common type of financial fraud, the safety tips, reporting fraud, and additional resources. And we will have the last 15 minutes of the presentation just to go within Q&As. So allow you to have, please make sure, as Rahel alluded to, put every single question you may have in the Q&A box. And after the presentation, we will have 15 minutes to go over those at the end of it. And if I can get into the third slide.
Give me one moment, I'm trying.
See if you can click on the left side, the third one.
Sorry, it doesn't let me talk when I'm sharing my screen. It should be, I'm moving them along. There might be a little bit of lag. So I'm gonna reshare and then I'll try to keep up, but there might be a second for a lag. Let me try this again by sharing my screen. Here we go. All right. Is that okay, Sue?
Yes, perfect.
Okay,
thank you so
sorry
much.
about that.
No worries. The technology sometimes doesn't help. So we will go over the 6 common signs of scam, and we will navigate into each of them, and also we will go over some typologies of fraud. to identify red flags and also how to prevent or react of those particular typologies, and making sure you can prevent it and actually take action as well. So the first one is the out of the blue. And this one is we have maybe perhaps the source of it is somebody's knocking on the door and a phone call that somebody's calling you the unknown number, or you're receiving a piece of mail and you are not expecting that. And out of the, in that communication, there's somebody impersonating perhaps the IRS. We are seeing an uptick on people calling individuals impersonating the FBI and telling that you have to provide information, including personal identification, like we call it PII. And when we're seeing on the IRS, now that we finished the tax season, maybe that fraudster is calling and impersonating the IRS agent and let you know, hey, we are receiving your tax, but you are owning more, or you have to send us the payment to a specific account or wiring, or maybe through cryptocurrency. That could be, that's an indicate, this is a red flag, right? When you have something like that. And those are with the typology of out of the blue. And I will give you a little bit of how to identify that red flag, and then how can you prevent it as well. So we can go over that in a minute. The next one is claiming to be an emergency. And we are not seeing an uptick in the past a year and a half with the emergency, but that scam is still in the industry, that somebody is calling you or even utilizing the email and sending you an email that a friend or a family member is in a foreign country, and they need an immediate response to actually send money to release the person from like a cartel, or they are being kidnapped in a specific country. Those are also a very popular scam right now, but a little bit with less optic. The next one is a wired sending wires, and that is a combination of, again, maybe are asking to purchase a specific item, the person calling you and saying that they're offering a specific item, and but you need to prepay that, or they are trying to impersonate and telling you, hey, this investment is sometimes we're seeing in a cryptocurrency space right now that is very popular, and they're saying you have to pay the fees associated with, but you need to pay it up front, and you have to send this wire to a specific company or a specific location, and maybe in a foreign country or maybe within the US. That is indeed a red flag for a scam. Last but not least is the secret. And the secret is usually the fraudster is asking to keep that transaction secret from a family member, a friend. And usually we see in the correlation of the secret scam with the romance scam. The fraudster, the scammers are getting access to the victim, going over and having cultivating a relationship with the victim. And all of a sudden it will tell the victim, this transaction, please do not share with family and friends. It's something that you should not do that. And that is an indication that is indeed a scam, and you will not indeed, it's you will not see that transaction and that money getting back. The secret also with the romance scam, we seen a lot on elder abuse when person are trying to get access to be familiarized and get the elder attention. And then with this scam is to let them know, please do not share that with family members. The last one is the too good to be true. And in this particular one, again, it's correlated with investment fraud and also with scams associated with lottery and prices, or somebody's telling you that you indeed went ahead and won something, and you have to send and go over and send money to get into those particular investment as well. If it's too good to be true, you have to think about it, but we will go over those things in a minute. The identity, we are going over doing a deep dive within those signs of scam between these particular areas. We will go over identity theft together today, advance fee fraud, check fraud, sharding scam, and credit card fraud. And last but not least is the account takeover, which is right now one of the highest, and we have an optic on it across the industry. Next slide. Thank you. Financial identity theft, that happened when the scammer or a fraudster go into phishing, smishing, and vishing, and utilizing fake website. Data breaches could be one of the sources to get that identity stolen from you. And public Wi-Fi, I want to pause a moment and give you one of the intel. Usually we tend to go into public spaces, like going to a hotel, an event, or a venue. And sometimes we've seen that fraudsters are copy the Wi-Fi attributes to a particular location, a Wi-Fi. For instance, recently I was traveling and I went to one of the hotels, and when I scan and look at the Wi-Fi available for used, I noticed that it was a duplicate icon of a Wi-Fi that were similar to the one at the hotel. And usually when you are in a hotel and you are staying there, when you go into the front desk, they will give you a password that is a guest access to the Wi-Fi. And very little you will see that the Wi-Fi are open and will not have any, if you cannot access that uh, 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 very have it without a password, right? We suggest that you don't use public Wi-Fi because we don't know if fraudsters are using that copy, and you are accessing a Wi-Fi that is indeed hosted by a fraudster, and you can get that information stolen, and then you open that door to that possible identity theft situation. So be vigilant on the public Wi-Fi. Impersonation scam that we will talk about pretty much 30 minutes going over impersonation and going over those and go into that typology. And last but not least, the last one is, unfortunately, dark web exists, and fraudsters and criminals can go to the dark web and purchase a plethora of information about individuals and entity. And you can imagine we're seeing in the dark web, it's like a a market, a market to go over and collect and buy identity of people, all those stolen records. Unfortunately, that exist. So this is one of the sources to get that identity, getting from a fraudster to go into a criminal issues. The next one. So how to recognize the red flag? And as I alluded to before, on the identity theft, we want to make sure that you are contacted maybe, and I can give you the worst case scenario and the ones that are a little bit better. So when you are getting contacted by the debt collector, I think that's is too late. We have some suggestion to prevent that, but that is indeed an indication that you have a financial identity theft. Then you receive statement for accounts that you didn't open. That's another huge red flag. And you are denied credit for no apparent reason. That's one of the critical red flags. And or perhaps you find unfamiliar charges on your credit and bank statement. That is a red flag that you can actually react very quickly. That means that you are seeing an anomaly on your credit card or bank statement, and you can actually see that and react. Comparing to the debt collector and the denied credit, that means that it went all the way very far away to get it detected right away. And a sudden drop in the credit score that it correlate with the debt collector and the denial credit. Those are all stages that indicates is a prolonged identity theft situation. The next slide. So how can you protect yourself, right? It's always about how can we prevent a fraudster to get or getting into that identity theft. You have few options in here. First is freeze your credit. And you can freeze that to stop fraudster from opening new accounts and taking out loans in your name. You have to contact each of the major credit bureaus to request a credit freeze. And we will have that as our resources in this presentation. And at the end of the presentation, we can have additional resources as well, send them your way. But you can have that. And when you are applying for a new credit, you can unfreeze it and freeze it again. That is free. You can use it, and it's like a very preventable tool for you to stop that a fraudster to open a new account and loan in your name. And then the next one is learning the signs of phishing attack. So right now we are living in this digitalization, and we receive, you can imagine how many emails, right, per day. Be vigilant. Make sure when you are getting an email, scan it. We will go over some example, but be aware of sign of phishing attack and making sure that you are vigilant on those items. Another item is regularly check your credit report and bank statement. You can have every year a free credit report from the three bureaus, and you can make it as a monitoring strategy. Go ahead and review it every single year, making sure that your information is complete and accurate. And your bank statement. We have some tools that we will go over later in the presentation that you can actually have to put in your online banking and on some alerts that will navigate in making sure your transaction, review those periodically and making sure you have it, that monitoring in place in all of your bank statement, not only in your checking account, but even in your savings and all other accounts as well. Don't store your credit card and banking details online. This is key. Sometimes it's so convenient, but the convenience became a hazard, right? When now we're seeing an optic of online stored asking, please, you don't have to, you can go as fast checkout if you store your credit card information, right? We recommend that you don't do that, because that means that if for some reason that online store has a breach or data breach in their system, your credit card information is embedded in that data breach. And that is something that, even though is checking in a guest is longer, it will prevent a future fraud in for that particular area if they have a data breach for that online store in the future. Last but not least, consider to have an identity theft protection. There are a plethora of options for in the market that you can look and see if you can have it, and if you feel comfortable going into the identity theft protection. Advanced fee fraud. This is the second that we will review. And this scam is when scammers offer goods, services, and funds exchange, but it's upfront payment. And we have few of them. Lori, somebody's calling you or emailing you and saying, hey, you want a lottery, but you have to pay fees and taxes associated with that amount. And they wanted to have it upfront. And you have to wire that, or maybe send cryptocurrency to a specific entity or an individual. That's a huge red flag. First, I mean, uh, doses are back to too good to be true. And you have to, again, pause and try to go into the signal that I shared with you in the beginning when the scammer wants something immediately. That's the first word that I have in my, when you are assessing, doing your own risk assessment. If they wanted to act immediately, that you need to make a decision right away, that's the first red flag. Second is the urgency of the information. And third is why I have to send money up front. Maybe I have to validate and making sure this is a legitimate request. So the next one is the inheritance scam. And this is I'm seeing that, but it's not often now. The last time that I saw some inheritance scam was a couple of years ago, when I was reviewing a paperwork that Froster created with the logo of the state county. Was very sophisticated, and sent that via mail to an individual, telling that an individual has an inheritance from a relative in a specific county and a state, and they have to pay taxes associated with that to be able to clear the amount. And couple of cash, it was couple of misspelling, and also send it to a specific location, and doing a wire, another red flag, right? Instead, and that was, it was very paperwork, a letter was with the logo of the county. It looked very legitimate, but what I call it, the devil are in the details. When you see those misspelling and sending taxes that are not going into a county account, or sending to a specific county office, it was requesting to send a wire to a specific account. So watch out for those inheritance scam. And an advice in this case is, when something like that happen, You can contact directly the state account or the circuit court that is associated in inquiry about that specific topic and making sure it's legitimate. The job offer scam. This one was the last two are the popular, and unfortunately, and we got an uptick during the pandemic. And the job offer scam, we saw the following pattern for the scammer. So people were they were announcing on the Facebook, social media, that they were hiring people remote to work remote during the pandemic, processing documentation. Looked like very legitimate job posting. And the scam was to people were calling to get hired by this entities, fake entities, and the scammer, the fraudster, then requested to the member to pay in advance the computer equipment for the work office at home. And individuals send money or wire money, the specific amount, to these entities. And when they find out that the entity was completely fake and the amount, the money disappeared. They were using fake phone numbers and fake entities. And a lot of people fall into those scams. And I will revisit the job scam. They also had another method that we will go over the counterfeit check as well in a couple of slide after. The cryptocurrency scam, a lot of people were going into cryptocurrency during the pandemic as well. We also have a boom in cryptocurrency. And a lot of fraudsters, scammers were kind of calling, impersonating, they were brokers and going over cryptocurrency and requesting individuals to get invest in cryptocurrency, but they have to pay the fee in advance associated with that coins, and send it or into wires, or make a payments going back to cryptocurrency to another entities that were completely fake and then were accounts to for another fraudsters. Next slide. And recognize the red flag for advance fee. Ask for payment upfront. A business asking you for a prepayment services in advance, but you notice that the business is operating out of a PO box, that's a red flag. Another thing that we recommend is that if you are back to that job, a scam, is that you can utilize Google the entity. Sometimes is if you Google the entity, you can go put the name of the entity plus sign scan/fraud, and you will be amazed if you can sometimes other individuals posting that those entities are fraud. You can have that information from Google, and also you can put the telephone number and utilizing the same path of the phone number plus scam/fraud, and you will sometimes see other people reporting that phone as a fraud or associated with a fraudulent entity or individual. You will be able to see it when you are doing a search in Google. So it's a good advice. It's something free that you can do it yourself, and making sure that you can be familiar with to those tools to be able to do your own due diligence. Another tool that you can use is to go into the Better Business Bureau and see if the entity is registered there, and see if the entity has any issues and complaint around fraud. Next slide. Then tips to avoiding advance fee fraud. And back to know how you are dealing with, going into that extra due diligence, making sure that you are researching the entity, back to the phone number, and kind of going over that information. Make sure you're fully understand any businesses agreement that you are enter, and that is attached to that cryptocurrency scam. And it is important that when you are doing any businesses in that investment world, right, you making sure that you understand the agreement. If you see it that is so complex that you cannot even understand, right, we suggest that you seek for an attorney advice and kind of go over with the agreement with a qualified lawyer, so that way you can understand and feel comfortable. Never feel the pressure to sign any contract with any businesses or investment that you are not comfortable in understanding what the agreement is about. The next slide. Then the next one is fake check scam. And I will go over a little bit of the uh, revisit the job scam in a minute to be able to give you the typology that we're seeing there. But again, we're seeing also an uptick in fake checks, and we can see a fraudulent check and the request for them to be deposited into your account, and then send immediately funds that you deposit within that check and send it immediately to a specific with instruction to send it to another entity or an individual right away. um, could be a mystery shopper job or car grab advertisement offer, work from home job scam. I will pause in here and give you the second scam for the job work from home. Another typology was on that work from home job. They were sending cashier check, fake, counterfeit cashier check to those individuals that were hired by the fake entity, and telling the individuals that go ahead and deposit this amount that is for your home office equipment, but you have to send immediately that funds to a third party that will process your equipment and send you the equipment back to you. First red flag. Why, if you're getting hired, right, you have to deposit that cashier check and send it to a third party? That was the first red flag. And second, the fact that was a cashier check that could have any, attribute to be a counterfeit, and the ability to, again, second red flag, immediately they requested the individuals to send those funds to that particular entity. So I mentioned before, we had an optic on that particular scam because a lot of people thought that it was first legitimate. They got a cashier check that they thought this is from the company, I'm depositing this into my account and sending to a third party, maybe because was a supply chain issues or processing issue. The individual felt okay with that process, but was in completely end-to-end a fraud scam. Next slide. How to identify a fake check? Right now with this technology, right, that we have even a scanning and copy of 3D and all that stuff, it is very hard. But you have some tips to be able to identify when it's a fake check, and it could not be 100% right, because we living in a very fast technology world right now. But you can go over a few tips that you can identify a fake check. First, if you notice that that check is smooth on all sides, a real check commonly has one perforated edge. Perhaps that's on the personal check, is that somebody, remove it from that checkbook. And those again is for personal check. Then if the check field for the printable check, that could be an entity that a business is sending, they have a print check. If the check feels fragile, like you notice that the paper is not thicker, it's just like very low quality, that's an indication of a counterfeit check. And misspelling. Usually when we see an optic in those of counterfeit cashier check, the majority of them are going into be a misspelling of the entity or a misspelling of your name when you get it presented. If you go into the next slide, we can go over the lookout on it. And what I was mentioning is in this check you can go over your risk assessment and start kind of like asking, is the company, back what I alluded to, name, its address misspelled, right? Low cases or capital. It back to the PO box, right? Another is I mentioned before, pay to the order of, and then your name is all or misspelled or in a different way. Doesn't look professional. Does the check number match the check number indicated in the line of the bottom of the check? Another indication is, as I mentioned, the paper. And also, does the check have the correct routing number? You can go into Google and Google the routing number, and you will have that indicating what bank and correlate that as well. And again, it's something that you can do on your own. But also you can look for the bank that maybe perhaps the bank is fake. They just print out that check from, and you can go over the FDIC.gov bank find tool and look to see if the bank is a legitimate bank. Again, you can also call for having Google the bank as well and go into the website and kind of like make sure that is a legitimate check as well. How to avoid a fake check is sometimes it's difficult, but never accept a blank check. Just make sure you have all your check that you are getting is the amount that you are agree upon amount, and making sure that you look for those sign. Um, Wait, sometimes you have, we're suggesting that it's something that you have that you don't have all those red flag, but you kind of like not sure if that is a legitimate check. Wait until the check officially clear. Usually is typically is 1 or 2 weeks that it's the bank or the financial institution is processing that check. It will probably take like 1 or 2 weeks, and make sure maybe it's good to wait until the check officially clears. Don't send a payee or a third party money from a check specific. Don't fall into scam that you have to act immediately and send it to it. If you are in that and you don't know if this is a scam or not, sometimes go into wait until the check officially clears, and then follow up with the step that we suggested, going on due diligence. Ignore surprise winning, and be aware of foreign buyers. We have another optic on the foreign buyers. We have a lot of a Craigslist scam associated with cars, and during the pandemic, and a lot of people were trying to buy cars, and then Froster were telling people, I don't have the car here, I have in another state, or I have the car in a lot, but you have to pay me a wire to perhaps Thailand. Those were red flag, an indication that indeed was in a car fraud, a car scam to buy like a car. So be aware of foreign buyers and trying to work around those red flag, and making sure you have you do your due diligence. Verify any check and know the warning sign on online scammers. The next one is the charity fraud. And unfortunately, when we have a disaster, this is like the common of scammers to go over and create fake accounts and create fake charities. They also impersonate charities and create what we call it, a copy of the charity website or the copy of the account, and reroute the folks online to that website, which is fake. And actually, people were thinking that we're contributing to a specific charity, and was a fake website advertising the legitimate charity, but we're fostered with a fake website. Dishonest distribution charity is when they claim to be a charity, but all of a sudden they're utilizing the funds donation to other purposes, and there is not clear. They don't have a clear statement. You can they avoid to ask a specific question about the purpose of the charity, what they're doing. They don't have a published way to see the donation distribution, and those are red flags associated with the dishonest distribution charities. Fake disaster relief fund, they create those specific charities and to help in a disaster, and all of a sudden, instead of canalizing those donations to a specific disaster relief, they just walk away with the money and without any distribution, and then you will not hear from them again, unfortunately. Fraudulent GoFundMe, you have to be very careful. Usually they utilize social media, and what they do is Froster post stories could be legitimate. Photos from other legitimate fund go to fund people, but they create a go to fund account, a fake one, with the intention to collect the money from the legitimate stores and all that, but the fraudsters are collecting that donation and walking away. So you may not, you may think that you are contributing to a good cause, but not knowing that the fraudster is just walking away with the funds, unfortunately. 5 signs of charity scam, like red flags associated with that. Refusal to provide charity details. And usually that you're trying to look for the charity and the website is not clear. You call them and they don't provide you the details. We have few questions that you can have in your notebook to be able to kind of go over and do your due diligence. Usually they should be able to answer, how is the money being used? Where is the charity headquarters? What is the organization tag exempt ID number? What percentage of the donation goes directly to the program? Those should be very clear in a charity because those are requirements to have it as well as part of the administration of that donation program. And lack of information of your giving history. If you call them or email them and say, can I have a receipt from 6 months ago that I contributed, and all of a sudden they're saying, oh, thank you for your donation, but they don't give you details of when and the amount and all those, that's a huge red flag. That means that could be a possible a fraudulent charity. They require alternative payment. Maybe they want it in cash or in Venmo or all those stuff that are not, you cannot send a check or have a legitimate website with perhaps a platform to pay. Those are extremely red flag, Cash App and so on, Venmo. And no membership on accountability website. You can go and access from this presentation. We have the Better Business Bureau, Wise Giving Alliance, Charity Watch, and Charity Navigator. If you doubt about a specific charity and you want to search and making sure it is legitimate, you can go to charitynavigator.org and you can search for that particular charity, making sure that is registered as well. That's a really nice tool. How to avoid charity scam? Always research before giving. It is so essential. It's part of that due diligence, making sure your money is allocated to what you would like to get donated, right? Very important. Now, know where your money is going, back to it, and ask about registration and document your donation. Back to that, charitynavigator.org. It's amazing tool. Credit card fraud. Criminals make purchases or obtain cash advances in your name. This is we're seeing an uptick now that people are moving more in the digitalization, and what they're doing is to collect, maybe they are going into calling that credit card provider issuer, pretending to be you, and then they are changing your PIN number, password, any other account details in order to have a new card and to send it to their location. And unfortunately, this is something that can happen at any time. Maybe they're getting your personal information as an identity theft situation, calling the credit card issuer and trying to change everything to get routed into their location. Then they start kind of like going and expanding alarm. Counterfeit cars, be careful going into, sometimes you can get that in gas station, ATM, over car slot on an ATM. what they are doing is a copy, make a duplicate card from that when they're collecting that data from that gas station terminal or the ATM area on the car slot, and get that data and making a duplicate from your credit card. And you were seeing that counterfeit card charges on your credit card statement. Application fraud is more on they are digging in your trash can, or they have other elements on your going online and apply for credit card with your PII information and getting additional credit cards in your name as well. Similar, you get a correlation with identity theft as well. Card not presented fraud, criminal have largely like going over hacking in your, and maybe you don't have a protection in your computer or your phone, and maybe phishing on an email. You click there and you get your card information, credentials, all that information. Or when over a phone, they're asking you for credit card, including everything, zip code and all that stuff, security code, and that information is used on the online to utilize that and online purchase it. And we are seeing on our end, when getting into your transaction, card not presented fraud, it's online purchases the majority of the occasion. 7 signs that your debit card of a debit and credit card fraud. Well, notification from your credit union or bank for suspicious transaction. When you see an unexplained withdrawal from your bank account utilizing that debit card, right? All of a sudden you see suspicious charges of your credit card. Your mysterious spot getting bank or credit card statement in the mail. That's what I call it, a very difficult red flag, right? When you're getting like statement for other credit cards that you don't even know exists in your name. The 7 is actually within the pandemic, and we have few fraudsters were not too agile, and they forgot in the majority of the occasion, because of the velocity of the fraud, changing the location for that merchandise. And we have a lot of optic people getting merchandise arriving at their homes during the pandemic that they didn't order, and that means that maybe the fraudsters were trying to order all the stuff to route it into another location, and all of a sudden went to your house. That was an indication of a fraud. We had that a lot during the pandemic, and it keep repeating again. Next slide. So protect yourself, right? Monitor your card and bank account very often. We have different tools that allow you to monitor real time, and you can actually have some abilities to be able to set up some alerts to your card and your bank accounts as well. Check your credit card, as I alluded to that. Protect your credit and debit card. Be cautious when you're shopping online. Sometimes you want to look for deals online, but it's so tempting to go on a website and see this item is so less expensive than other one. Believe it or not, that's a red flag. Making sure that website is legitimate and is like a reputable online store as well, like making sure this is not fake. Be cautious of those fake website. Don't fall victim with phishing scam, as I mentioned, and sign your card as soon as they arrive. And I will go over account takeover, which is something that is so difficult. Is I call it the most difficult, and sometimes can permeate in multiple additional fraud as well. So this is something that we started to see an uptick during the pandemic because the lack of access to a physical branch location. And a lot of people that didn't go over online banking before because they were wanting to go into a physical branch, and all of a sudden when new to online banking we had that spike in that particular fraud. Then you can a fraudster can gain access to your online banking. Again, similar sources: phishing attack, spoofing, social engineers, cybersecurity issues, and call center fraud. And in the particular one, um, in that one, we have fraudster calling individuals and impersonating they are from the credit union or the bank, right, or the financial institution, and telling that they have fraud in their account, and trying to get credential from the individuals to them given by phone, also by email, clicking in the link provided by the email about that phishing, about that fake transaction, and that way they gained that access to the online banking credentials. When you see on that account takeover unfamiliar charges, like transaction out of pattern, for instance, a bank-to-bank transaction to another institution that you didn't do, and all of a sudden charges to your phone or email address, fraud alert from bank or credit union monitoring app, as we provided some examples in here, that you have to be very careful. Instead of clicking and calling what you are getting from the text or email, we encourage you to call directly to us and discuss what you are getting or you got in the email or you got in the text message, and we will help you do the process as well and identify what happened. But you never we recommend that you never click on that link provided as an example in here, and never call to that number, which is probably in some occasions it's just fake. Keep it safe from an account takeover, which is very difficult. Never reuse to prevent that. We recommend that you never reuse your password. Try to frequently, perhaps at your frequency, maybe a monthly or quarterly, change your password. Like have that as a monitoring and prevention strategy. Always use a secure and unique password. Do not share, maybe so convenience, but we recommend that you don't share. You use the same password for multiple accounts, and enable the two-factor authentication on top of that as well. We also recommend, sometimes you can also use a dark web scanner. There are some articles in the internet that you can get a reputable dark web scanner that allow you to look for your information and see if that information has been linked online, and get that into, unfortunately, the dark web. You can have that as well. And we recommend that you have an antivirus software. It is so essential. You also, believe it or not, a lot of people are using their own desktop computer, but we also recommend that you can look on publicly to see. You can also have some tools for your cell phone, your phone. Believe it or not, right now, that's a mini computer, what I call it. And we have to protect that as well. So there are some antivirus software and some functionality you can have for your phone is that is your only computer, including that phone as well. Use a VPN to protect your home Wi-Fi. And sometimes the Wi-Fi at your house is so vulnerable. Making sure that you have it with a password that you own. Do not share that. Making sure that you have it secure and not being open to the public, and making sure you have that as a preventive measure. And again, as I mentioned before multiple times now, but it's so important and essential, right? In this environment, protect your accounts. Again, use your two-factor authentication. Never share your credentials. Set up an account alert, which you can do that within our online banking. Utilize card control, which is the functionality that we offer, and regularly monitor an account activity. You can have it and you can access our application and go over at any time you need it. It's so convenient for you, and it's part of our tool that we offer. What else I can do? Make sure your contact information is up to date. Sometimes I'm seeing that, I mean, is we're all guilty sometimes, and we have our contact information for maybe 10 years ago into our financial institution, right? And it's important that you have it up to date. You have your phone information, that if you disconnected your cell phone from 4 or 5 years, making sure we have your current contact and your address and everything. So that way it's a good to have that in the event something a fraud event happen, and we can prevent it as well. We have the current information in the system, and that's a preventive measure as well. Two-factor authentication, believe it or not, we work in our house right now. Sometimes the majority of our um, jobs are hybrid or remote due to after the pandemic. And sometimes we have to, even at our house, to have a clean desk policy and making sure you don't have sensitive document running around the top of your house, making sure you have that share shred sensitive documentation, not get it all open, including your cars as well. Sign up for online statements. That way you have it and very easily. And put additional PIN and verbal password on your account. That's an extra layer. And I mentioned the public Wi-Fi. And then another tool, the last one is if you want to avoid the fraudster calling you, and that is a mitigating factor, is you can actually add your numbers to the do not call registry. So that way that minimize that exposure to have it, scam calls. You can report scams to us and report fraudulent activity to immediately to us utilizing our member services number 800-374-2758. You can also do it via message by my.ussfcu.org, and to logging into our online banking, my.usfscu.org, to verify an account transaction. Check our website for fraud notification. We constantly posting what we're seeing in the industry, and we have that those alert published in our website. And if you hopefully never. But if you are a victim of identity theft and there is a report fraud to Federal Trade Commission is a website that you go over that and you can go and report that fraud at reportfraud.ftc.gov and you have that link for your information. And the last slide is some of the resources that you can access.
I know
Very
we have about 19 people online. If anybody would like to ask questions, we are here.
And I will share out as soon as we're done here, links to all of those resources and then learning more about the identity, the card protection services that you can set up through online banking.
And I think I mentioned that within our online banking, they have a tool to actually have alerts as well.
Yep, through the card management
Yes.
section.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually set up like alerts to your account notifications to your specifications. Like if you your card or your bank account was used for an online transaction and you only want to be notified for that, you can set that up. If you want to be notified for all transactions, you can set that up. If you want to be notified for like suicide card not present or something, you know, or over 500, you can set that up. So it's pretty handy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also card control that Sue discussed earlier, which I utilize. So I lock my card when I'm not using it. Sometimes it may be a little inconvenient. You forget to when you go into the store, but it is really worth it. I was a victim identity fraud a couple years ago, and it has really taught me how to be cautious and how to convey that information to members. So we do have a lot of resources within in the credit union, like they said, card alert. The alert system as well as the card control, and with online banking access, just make sure you keep, you have the same information as we do at all times.
So I did see a hand raised. I went ahead and I made it so you are welcome to speak if you like. If it was an accident, which sometimes happens and you don't want to speak, you're not muted. So
thank you very much. I do have a question. Regarding a fake check, if you don't send them any money, is there still a problem? Because if a fake check goes to the bank and the bank says, no, it's fake, then there's no harm. Is that true?
Yeah, well, when we have something like that, what we will do is, as part of the fraud investigation, we will notify you. And my unit will interview, saying is what is the source of that counterfeit for our end. And what we are doing on our end is to go and notified. We have a protocol to go over with the Fed and kind of notify that it's a counterfeit. Well, we will go over that with you. And that transaction will get pretty much Rahel is something on the end that they can see it that is been the funds will probably be getting whole until we'll get notified by the counterfeit check and you will see it on your transaction and we will notify you as well.
Thank you. One
One
more
of the
question,
things you will see is,
if I can do that.
so,
The do not call, is that a federal number that you go to, or is that a telephone type of system? Who handles the do not call thing?
So the do not call registry is handled by the government, and I'll share the link, but it's basically you go to do not call.gov, I believe, and it's just a couple of clicks to add your phone number, cell phone or landline, to the registry, and then you verify it they send you an email for verification. But once you register for the do not call registry, your number's on there for life. And what I like to say is like, that's good for like, it's not going to stop all calls, right? But when you get a call that you think is a scam, you can pretty much rest assured that it's a scam because any legitimate business would honor the do not call registry, because again, it's .gov, right? So I think that's really helpful. I recommend it to my dad all the time too. For one, like I put him on it, like just because then you know, like, oh, duh, this is probably a scam.
It is a powerful tool, and it's something that will minimize and reduce the risk, Mr. Bono.
Okay, thank you. So it doesn't affect the legitimate calls. You identify the fake calls. Is that how they know what not to call?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, it is that that allows that you don't want to get marketing calls that you don't. The legitimate calls will go over, but not the do not for that is not unsolicited. It will get you will not get those that you are not soliciting. So for instance, if I'm a fraudster, I want to scam you for marketing purposes. I will, if I'm a legitimate company, I will not call you for marketing that you are not soliciting.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie, you want to add something in addition?
Oh, no, you kind
to
of
the-
said it. So legitimate businesses have to respect the do not call registry by law, but scammers, they don't give it a second thought. So if my phone rings and I know I'm on the do not call registry and my phone rings, I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to wonder in my head if this is legitimate because I'm on the do not call registry. And there's more details about it on the site, and again, I'll send it right over, the link to it, but it is operated by the government, and like by law, businesses or solicitors have to honor it. So
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
actually FTC website that I just registered all my phone numbers on it as we were speaking.
yeah, it's
So it is
incredibly
FTC
easy with
website.
just a
Yeah.
couple of clicks, right, Rahel? And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and then and I think you'll see if you get a lot of spoofing calls, you'll see a decrease pretty immediately.
Very powerful. It's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that we know over 15 minutes, Carrie. Any additional question on the chat before we wrap up today?
Just make sure everyone's okay here. Was wallet on iPhone a problem at keeping your credit card info? So I'll let you answer, Sue, but then I'll add on to that one.
I mean, we advise that if it's something that you can purchase when you go into a guest purchase, is sometimes you have to put information and that is not recorded in that online store. And the less exposure you have in that online arena, the better. So that way you control what you have and what you utilize in online. Carrie, you have additional intel on that one?
If I'm understanding correctly, I believe she's referring to Apple Wallet, or so on your phone, and that, I mean, dispute me if I'm wrong, but that is one of the safer ways to make transactions, because they're fully encrypted. So your card info is never shared with the merchant. So, and even when you add your card to your wallet, your mobile wallet, I know with us, you do have to call like the credit union to finalize the setup. So through a process called like tokenization, it actually makes it safer to make purchases, and then you don't have to touch the card or the terminal. And then on that note too, if you don't have mobile wallet or you haven't added your cards, but you do have a EMV card, it's always safer to use the EMV option over the strip option, because like Sue mentioned, if a company is hacked or there's a data breach, fraudsters can actually use the information that comes from the magnetic strip to recreate a card. But if you use that EMV chip card, again, that information isn't stored, so no one can duplicate that.
I only have my personal strategy is I only have one particular wallet that I use for a provider, because that's the only way I can monitor that. And I read the whole agreement, but just the nature of my job, it's just reading all the agreements, right? And my recommendation is that make sure you feel comfortable, right, with that digital wallet that you're using, and then you see in the event of a breach or something that is safe. But I'm seeing a lot of people are using multiple wallets or they have it spread up a lot of different sources, and then sometimes it's unmanageable. But Carrie, that's a good example of a good tool, a wallet, digital wallet tool.
Yeah, and I think it's
I have
basically,
Apple.
yeah. So it comes along with the phone, right? So
Oh,
just
nice.
also be sure to guard your phone though, right? So, but then again, with the card management stuff, the features, if you feel like you've lost your card, or in this case, your phone, which would mock your card, you can turn that right off and feel a little safer. But, obviously report it right away. But, that'll give you a break, like, oh, goodness, I turned my card off. Oh, well, I collect myself. Trust me, I lose my card all the time. But yes, so I think it's easier to operate. Like I said, you will have to go through a setup process on the phone with the call center to officially enroll your card, but it's for your own safety, your own protection, and it's easy. They answer right away, and they're super friendly over there. Okay, I hopefully, let me see if I got anyone else all set. All right, did I get everybody? Perfect. And you'll have our information too when I send the follow-up email, so you guys just reach out if you have any questions at all, and we'll get you to where you need to go. We've got tons of resources we love to share. Anything, you have a friend in us, you know where to find us. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rahel. Thank you, Sue. Thank you to all of our members for joining. If there's anything else, Rahel, I'll call it a night.
No, yes, call it a night. Thank you so much for being with us.
Class dismissed.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.